Well, here we are on Monday morning once again, and it's time to go and see Sir Pat McGart in Burt, County Donegal. How are you, Pat?
I'm grand, Jude. You know, the first King of Ireland was called Cormac McGart, so you are talking to someone of royal blood, you know.
It wasn't even a sir.
No, it is the first King of Ireland. I'd say it'd be hard pressed to find any royal lineage, but there you go.
It's a very unusual name. Isn't it a very unusual name? I don't know anybody else called McGart, actually, apart from McGart.
No, if my father had died, the name would have died with him. Basically, he had 5 sons, so that he kept the name alive.
Amazing. It would have died out where? Like, surely in Ireland.
Donegal. No, there was a guy. You see, Jude, it's like a lot of Irish names. MacArt, and it became MacCart, and I think there's a variation, maybe Mackay. You know, MacArt, Mac, M.A., son of arts.
But
then it became
quite common about Northampton, actually.
There'd be quite a few around. Exactly, I think there's even some talk.
Pronounced Mackay as M-C-C-A-Y as being Mackay up about Northampton, about Mackay among people, I would say, from Derry.
Yeah. Remember there's a famous footballer, Dave Mackay, played for Spurs in Scotland. MacArt, there was a guy called Jim MacArt, played for some Scottish Premier League team. And that was the only close variation of it came across in recent years.
I used to know a guy, he was taught in the Rosemount, I think, called Toss McKay, a good Derry man. I was in Canada at the same time as well. Okay, let's get down to business here, Pat. Enough of this idle chit-chat. Let's address the affairs of the nation, or nations. Obviously, the big thing is Trump and the aftermath of what he has incited. A lot of people are wringing in their hands and worrying about what Trump might do between now and the time he leaves office. Are you concerned about that?
Jude, what do you call it? When you only remember a name, it goes out of your head. The leader of the Democrats, Nancy Pelosi. Yeah, she said that she's described him now openly on air as unhinged, and she says he's quite dangerous. And Jude, when you think of what he did on last Wednesday, it was pretty serious stuff. Now, I was sat last night, Jude, I sat up again watching CNN until well after 1 o'clock. Apparently, the Democrats are looking for Mike Pence to invoke this Article 25, which means the cabinet takes him down rather than the Congress. Yeah. But what they're also doing is apparently they're giving Pence 24 hours to do that. I presume they formally inform him today, and then if he agrees to it, it'll go forward tomorrow. If he doesn't, I think they're going to launch something on Wednesday in Congress to bring about impeachment. But the thing about the impeachment is, if Trump is impeached, he'll be the first president in American history to be impeached twice. And secondly, if the impeachment is confirmed, it means he can't run again in 2024.
Yes, I think that's a significant thing.
That's the significant thing. That seems
to be the important thing. Although events, dear boy, events. Even he was not impeached and was theoretically in a position to run. I'm not sure that he would be the force he is now in 4 years' time. Plus, there's an awful lot of people in the Republican Party who are jostling to take over now. And some of those who had an eye in there taking over from Trump, like Ted Cruz, are as right-wing or have supported Trump. And some who would have their eye in it are rather more removed and in fact are condemning him. Guy called Pat Toomey, was it?
I think it's Toomey,
a prominent Republican. He has been quite forthright in his condemnation of Trump. So I think they're jostling for position at this stage. And it might well be, even if Trump did decide to run and could run, that they mightn't be room for him.
Yeah. Well, like there was in Northern Ireland, you can always boil things down to a local level. And after Paisley became the top dog, every wee village, every Unionist village had their mini-me Paisley. For a while there, Trump, like Boris Johnson is a mini-me. They used the same playbook, and in fact, they went pretty much the same right-wing demagoguery type thing. it's been pretty much exposed. It's been a very dangerous road to go down. But Jude, it's going to be interesting now, just exactly where all this does land. And I think there's a lot of, I wonder, will the Republican Party now try and recenter itself as a centre party? Because by God, it's gone, like if Ted Cruz can get away with what he did last Wednesday, like even after there was that shocking attack on the home of democracy in America, he still went on this sham thing to keep Trump happy. But by the way, Jude,
I don't think Pat, fair to that guy Cruz. Like, I mean, I think he's lower than a snake's belly, but I think he made. I'm pretty sure he made his stand beside Trump, so to speak, by calling for another inquiry or another commission that would see if Georgia had been fair. But I think that was before they invaded the Capitol.
Yeah,
it was just
before. He still hasn't, sort of reneged on all this sort of, Jude, and that was behind all this thing. You see, when you start, when you're an elected representative and you start calling into the dispute elections, that's a slippery slope, and that's what they're doing. In other words, if we don't get what the result we want, these elections are unfair.
But you see, I can't help thinking that it is a good thing that it's come to a head like this, rather than that Trump should have sort of sidled out the door because he was eventually beaten. I think it's better bring it to a head. One of the guys I saw on CNN last night, one of the guys who was elected as a Democratic senator in Georgia is a black guy, as far as I know, a black preacher. And
Reverend Michael something.
He did a bit of the old tub thumping, talking about cutting the head off the snake. And the fact that it's still wriggling doesn't mean anything, and it's all right, he's dead, actually. All you're seeing is the wriggling. But I think it was a time when the Democrats were fearful of impeaching him because they thought it would run against them. The people think they'd pushed it for political reasons, their own interests, rather than the interests of the nation. I don't think that's the case now.
Yeah,
I think
there was Jude, apparently they've already got 200 votes for this, so there's pretty much unanimity in the Democratic Party this time. The other thing is there was this concern about making Trump a martyr. I don't think that case winds up anymore either. He's not a martyr after what happened, and like he sat back and watched that for a long time. And one of the reasons apparently he didn't like the people who were, and he said they were low class. It was all right if they had been wearing shirts and ties. I presume it would have been different. But it showed the type of people, Jude, that were really supporting him. It's and it really does, because I'm sure there are plenty of Republicans who do not like the Democrats, and so on. But they don't go on and smash windows and Jude. By the way, the one thing we haven't talked about, it's apparently these people went. There was nooses, there was cable ties, there were bombs. They actually some people shit on the floor of the house.
I missed that fragrant detail.
They defecated on the whole, and so these people were serious. Had they found Mike Pence or Chuck Schumer or Nancy Pelosi, I would love to know. I'd say there could be a real right now. Washington could be preparing for a state funeral for a senior member of the Democratic Party.
I remember in the very early days of the Troubles, seeing a sign in Derry, or in Belfast actually, saying simply "Hang Bernie." And in a way that disgusting notion came true. With that attack on her that nearly killed her and her husband. There are some vicious, nasty people. I gather that some of them were found with, some of those that have been arrested or that they checked on had been found with plastic handcuffs in their pockets. And the thought was there that they may have wanted to kidnap some of the members of Congress or the Senate and take them, hold them for ransom.
Yeah. Well, there's a friend of mine, he's an American journalist, and he sent me a couple of stuff. He says these people were serious. He says they went prepared to take hostages, prepared. So he said this wasn't some little sort of, let's dismiss it as a riot. He said this was deadly serious, And maybe maybe this is frightened America into sort of saying, where are we going?
Well,
You would hope so.
I think that that preacher, that pastor, may have had a point. If you can remove the head of that, I mean, certainly Trump was the motivating force behind it all. He gives them cohesion. Of course, there are lots of crazies throughout the right-wing extremists and white extremists throughout the states, but I think they don't have the cohesion they had whenever Trump was president and was, constantly tweeting. And incidentally, that's another good thing has been done. And I don't give a damn, frankly, about the notion of free speech, that Trump has finally been deprived of the platform of Twitter, where he can keep on doing. I mean, he was doing it every single day, so it was all about him. And if that isn't an abuse of Twitter, I don't know what is.
Yeah, but he's gone on to this, I can't remember the name of it, Jude, Polar or something, I think it's called. I can't remember. There's an absolute right-wing Looney Tune.
Parler.
Sorry, Parler. Yeah, apparently he's now he's either but apparently he's also talking about setting up his own, web chat room, to rival.
Twitter.
So I don't know.
I suppose it's possible that I frankly don't think there's a hope in hell that'll work. I remember hearing some people Americans talking about this notion of setting up a version of Fox, have his own TV station. They seem to be very dubious about that. And I think I'd be dubious about it as well, because I think he'd probably find better ways than a TV station, which has to be highly organized. You've got better ways and easier ways of keeping in communication through social media of one kind or another. But
as well as Jude, I don't think Trump has got that narcissistic personality. Like nobody would work for him for very long, because unless they absolutely kowtow to his whim and wish on every occasion, and anybody that got it. Sure, look at it. It was a revolving door. Staff in the senior staff in the White House, and these were people of real ability, and of course they were all geniuses when he employed them, and they were all idiots when he let them go.
Yeah, that's for sure. Well, I still think that the fact that he has managed to alienate and actually get people who had stuck by him right throughout are now busy peeling away from him. I mean, Mike Pence is the best example I can think of. Mike Pence went along with him all the way, right up to the last minute. Now, you can either say Mike Pence is a wonderful guy. He took a stand and he says, I don't have the power to say that Georgia was illegal. Or you say he only peeled away from Trump when he was absolutely forced to. And that's the case with practically all of the Republican politicians.
Jude, I opt for the latter one. Pence deserves, the sort of, on a scale of 1 to 10, he deserves 2 for doing the job he was always supposed to do. But see the other 8, that was for the time that he doesn't get, that for not doing his job. Another thing about Trump, as the enablers rather than these people knew this man was half insane, and some of the things he did were crazy. As Joe Biden said on, I think it was Saturday morning as well, he says this man was an embarrassment. He embarrassed us across the world. Little rocket man insulting Angela Merkel. They couldn't even allow him to walk, and when he came to London, they wouldn't even allow him a public walkabout. They shunted him away because they knew there'd be massive protests in the street. He made comments about, he was a buffoon, and he showed the worst face of America. This almost, your ignorance is equal to my knowledge. That sort of attitude. I don't care whether you're right or wrong. I'm the president. And that sort of stupid arrogance, and the ignorant American. He sort of what would you say, symbolized in a way that nobody else has ever done.
Well, you see, Arnold Schwarzenegger compared the assault on the Capitol to Kristallnacht, the Hitler one, and he said that his father was, Arnie's father was a Nazi officer. So he knows what he was talking about. I think Trump, over the period of his running for office and his being in office, he had such a strong hold on the Republican Party that anybody who'd spoken out would have been finished. Their political careers would have been finished, I think.
Yeah.
And as a result, many of them kept their traps shut or swung behind him and made noises that sounded like they agreed with him. Only now, it's sort of pathetic, actually. Only now, when they see he can't hurt them.
The smartest guy of the whole lot, Jude, was your man, Senator Paul Ryan, who was the Speaker of the House. When Trump got elected, he resigned.
I haven't. Is he no longer in politics?
No, he's not. I went back to private life. But watch him now making a return. Now it's not out of the bounds, Like he just knew, like he was a fairly right wing conservative himself, but he was smart enough to get out. But a lot of people attach themselves to Trump. Trump was right. I think a lot of people in America have become disillusioned. And by the way, the Democrats, which are supposed to be the Labour Party, when Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton were hanging out with all the millionaires and billionaires and making fortunes, like they were not exactly the representative of the working class. And Trump comes along and tells all these people in the Rust Bucket states, I'm the millionaire and I'm here to look after you and all. They bought it. And by the way, it was just disillusionment. So I don't know who speaks for the poor in America.
Nobody. Nobody is a simple answer. And this idea of Trump being an outsider, Hillary and Bill Clinton were at his wedding, I think, or one of his weddings.
The billionaire outsider.
Huh? What did you say, Pat? What did you say?
Absolutely. And he was going to drain the swamp. He appointed people to right, left, and centre, including his own family. Talk about nepotism. Talk about there was all sorts of deals his family done with China for patents, for products, and so on. That was really draining the swamp.
It's unbelievable. We'll stop with this point. I think maybe, or except you want to say something else. But the thing that delights me and surprises me is that it all has worked out happily. Despite all the bad stuff, it's really worked out. The Democratic candidate won, Georgia won, so the majority in the Senate and the House of Congressmen and women, and Trump has really, I don't know, shat in his own nest.
Yeah,
so
absolutely. Yeah.
What's not to like?
There's a thing called karma in this world. The great wheel turns. Like Trump was riding high 4 years ago. I had control of everything. So he loses the presidency, he loses the House of Representatives, and he loses the Senate. Yeah. Well, there is a justice. Yeah.
There is a God. There's a God.
There's a God.
Okay, let's move to the other thing, right? God, this is something actually that is impinging more on us perhaps than Trump, and that is the whole evolution of Brexit. And you're telling me, for example, that there's shortages in the shops. I don't go to the shops; I get my stuff delivered.
No, Jude, but there was a friend on yesterday. He said, "Pat, if you looked," and I I go to the shops. But right, I wrote it down somewhere. M&S, Jude, Tesco's, Asda, and Sainsbury's have all reported that supplies have been delayed or are basically limited in recent days. My dear Mrs. She shops. We live on the border, so we shop both places. And she says, "No, they're not shortages, but there are limited supplies. If you went in before, maybe there was 3 or 4 different options.
Yes.
Now there's one.
Why is that, Pat? Why is that?
Well, Jude, my youngest son has a friend who's involved in the transport industry, and apparently they're saying that the absolute chaos at the ports has not been reported accurately in the media at all. There are people getting turned back. Their lorries being held up. There's all sorts of stuff going on. And even apparently in France at the minute, you can jump over and back all over the place here. Apparently in France, there's a serious problem. But a lot of British fish, when it goes to the other side of the channel, apparently it's been left to rot because a lot of the British companies haven't got their papers right.
Oh, yeah.
And by the way, there's one other thing, Jude, that's very important as well. I think it's today or tomorrow. Steve Aiken, the leader of the Ulster Unionist Party, there's this thing called Article 16. It means that at the minute that both Britain or the EU are entitled to the Northern Ireland Protocol to sort of invoke if the thing isn't working properly, that they can unilaterally sort of change it. And Steve Aiken is looking for
They can unilaterally change it.
Unilaterally change it, yeah, on the basis, yeah, but they have to make a case, that this is not working and we need to do this.
Right.
He wants the assembly to have the same power. Now, you can't see how that's going to work out. Yeah. But basically what they're saying is, right now, Northern Ireland is one of the places being most badly affected because of the shortages and because of the paperwork and other stuff coming in from Britain, because most of the stuff in Northern Ireland comes in from Britain. And now suddenly, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say that what the Unionists, what the DUP, and I think I heard Ian Beasley Jr. on, what they're very, very keen to push is this notion that having the border in the Irish Sea isn't working, can't work. But as you mentioned, between Dover and Calais, there's all sorts of problems. Yeah. Scottish fishermen are having a terrible time with exactly what you mentioned, that they'll get fresh fish and the chain of delivery, when it was there, was fine. They were able to get it onto the shelves within 24 hours. Now they can't do that. So my point is this, that I would like to think anyway, that it isn't simply a problem with the Irish Protocol, it's a problem with Brexit. And who created Brexit? The DUP.
DUP. And Jude, the DUP are trying to offload it to everyone. The DUP, Jude, let's repeat for everybody, that all two of our viewers, that very simply, the DUP kept in power. Everybody along the way, that they opposed every deal for Brexit, and now they talk about coming home to roost. And like in Northern Ireland, any problems about Brexit, lay them at the door of the DUP, because they have brought them all. Yeah.
But I'm a bit alarmed about this notion that they can call a meeting and then that they could take unilateral action. That's
my understanding. Right now, apparently, the EU and UK can come along and say, right, this is not working, so we'll change this. Now they have to justify it.
Oh, I see.
He says the Assembly should be able to activate, I think it's Article 16.
Well, if he means the Assembly, and he means that it has to be Sinn Fein must weigh in on it as well.
I
can tell you now, he can forget it. I would be amazed if Sinn Fein would agree to reforming or abolishing the Irish Protocol, because it was a gift from heaven. It was a gift from heaven. And if there's an article today by that guy, I don't know if you may remember him. He was around, very prominent a few years ago. Brendan O'Leary, Professor.
Very much so. Yeah.
He's in Pennsylvania now, and he has a long article in the Irish Times today talking about the fact that there is a unity referendum coming in Ireland. I mean, he's not saying if or but, he's just saying it's going to come. So it's a question of people being prepared for it. And we need to be careful, he said, the Southern government, but I suppose really those who believe in a united Ireland, which might not be the same thing as the Southern government, he says they need to be aware, because they could be caught on the hop. They could have the British Secretary of State saying, oh yeah, I think it's time now for an Irish vote, because there are nine MPs from the North are in favour of Irish unity, and 8 are opposed to it. So you have a majority. So they could spring it on people, and that would be bad news, because the people who are going to decide this are those people who are non-unionist, supposedly, but not nationalist either, i.e. I'm talking about the Alliance Party. Yes, I'm talking about you now.
I thought you might be, yes.
And also the soft, quotation marks, Catholic vote. That is those pseudo-nationalists who would say, oh, well, I'd be in favour of, but someday, the same way that Neil Martin is in favour of Irish unity, someday. O'Leary's point was, let's get cracking now and get this plan for United Ireland clear and as distinct and detailed as we possibly can while we still have time, because this referendum is going to come, and it's going to come, it might even come at an inconvenient time. I find that very cheering, I must say. And he also made the point that Northern Ireland now is really governed by the EU and the UK together. And he says with time, if this Irish Sea border keeps in place, that the North will be feeling more the impact of decisions made by the south of Ireland than they will about decisions made by Westminster.
The Unionists must, the DUP have done some job, haven't they? If I was a Unionist sitting around, this is where they have landed us brilliantly. But Jude, when you sit down and think about it, the thing really is in flux, and things have changed dramatically. But Jude, it is worth repeating. It was the arrogance of the DUP, and their sort of dismissal. And we have said this a million times. They have alienated. I always thought when you were trying to win friends, you sort of charmed people and reached out. The DUP have done none of that. The arrogance, their dismissal, their whole thing about Brexit has been absolutely, never mind the actual, their way they handled it. They just ignored the fact that 56% of the people in Northern Ireland voted, just totally ignored those people. So much evil.
I think there's a terrible logic in the way the attitude they've struck, and that is that's what got them elected. That's what got them the votes. That's
but Jude, that's short. But hold on. Tony Blair used to use the term look for the big picture. The DUP were looking for the small picture. By the way, the other side of the story is there's two DUPs these days. There's the guys at Westminster, and then there's the party in Northern Ireland. And the guys at Westminster, most of them have so safe seats they can beat the drum all day long, and there's no consequences for them.
Are you suggesting, Pat, that the DUP in the executive are more reasonable people and wouldn't, be doing that kind of beating the drum thing that the MPs in the DUP MPs in Westminster do?
I would say there's I wouldn't go so far as to say they're totally different, but I'd say there's a much more realism about the realities of what's coming down the track. Like Gregory Campbell's a massive majority. You keep naming them, Jude. They've all got big majorities, and they're not going to, in the morning, they're not going to be worried too much about what's going on. Jeffrey Donaldson, big one, and so on. You keep going. But what I think is the reality shaking home to the people like Arlene Foster. Arlene Foster, has hung in there pretty much this last while, but she doesn't seem to have much authority.
Yeah, I mean, I'm as you speak, I'm trying to think of names of people, unionists in the north here now, DUP people, politicians in the north, as distinct from DUP politicians in Westminster. I'm trying to think of names and figures other than Arlene Foster. Could you rattle off 5 people?
No, Jesus,
rattle off 5 people in Westminster with no bother. But
I'm pretty much the same as you.
That says something, I watched that and I thought, why the hell are all the sort of big, I won't say big brains, but big beasts,
the big beasts
of the DUP going to Westminster? You know, I still don't quite get it, but they certainly have congregated there. And they've left Arlene. And I honestly can't. I mean, if you think of that guy, what was his name? Jonathan? Or was it Jonathan something? He was a finance minister at one point.
He's now, no, he's not Jonathan. Anyway, he's now the Chamber of Commerce guy in Belfast.
That's right. So there was never any explanation of that. It wasn't that he was caught with a loaf in his head or anything.
No,
I mean, he just simply decided.
He just said that's enough for me, and away went. Well, maybe politics can be a very short life. Maybe he thought, right, if I'm offered a job as head of the chief of the Chamber of Horrors in Belfast, maybe it's a good, well-paying job.
Well, that's possible, or it may be that he sees the writing on the wall. That being a unionist. A politician isn't something that's going to lead to anything good over the next 5 or 10 years. I mean, he's a youngish man, maybe in early middle age, I would say. So it's interesting. Definitely the talent, or whatever you want to call it, the vocal big beasts are in Westminster, and there's Arlene, and I don't know who else. But I'll tell you this, Pat, it's not, you can't even break them into those 2 blocks, because certainly from Westminster, the DUP MPs, if they come on, the best of them is your man, Jeffrey Donaldson. He's a sort of acceptable, mild-speaking face of the DUP. But they are really sort of right-wing Tories themselves in terms of
Yeah,
Northern
absolutely.
Ireland or of Ireland. But that's not to say that you can then say that people like Arlene are some way different. They're not.
Yeah. No.
Arlene, nobody made any effort to do the one thing that would have saved them, and that is to draw in, strengthen that soft Catholic vote, get more and more
That's
people
the very
thinking
point
that
I'm
way.
making, Jude. Exactly, Jude. But just to revert again, there was a photograph taken with Ian Paisley and Sammy Wilson, and I can't remember who else. I think there was another MP. No, vote Trump 2020. They seem to, by the way, this is a terrible generalization, but they seem to gravitate towards people who are absolutely obnoxious. Like, how does unionism? Unionism likes Trump. Like, what sort of mentality do you have? Do you have to like Trump? Arrogant, disdainful, narcissistic. I could keep going. Think of a few adjectives yourself while I'm rattling on. Like, it's unbelievable.
I think the reason that they cozied up to Trump or cozied up to Johnson, it's simple in a way. These are the big boys.
Yeah.
Trump was the big man in America.
Yeah.
Boris
Yeah.
Johnson is the big man in
Yeah.
Britain or in
And
England.
they're big supporters. Oh, there's big supporters of Israel too, which is absolutely hammering the shit out of the Palestinians.
Yeah.
They seem to gravitate towards fascism.
Yeah. To me, it's appalling, incidentally, and this is widening out beyond the DUP. It's kind of appalling that these people can consistently stand by Trump. I mean, there was a photograph of Michael Gove over with Trump grinning, both of them grinning and doing a thumbs up thing.
Yeah.
I mean, how Gove can now turn around, or Johnson himself for that matter, and say, oh, this is disgusting, and we couldn't have this, and so on.
Yeah.
And whereas prior to that, Johnson was saying things like, just imagine if Trump were leading the charge for Brexit, he would go in bloody hard.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, Jude, the whole thing, I think the DUP, just to finish up on the point,
Okay.
I think the DUP deserve everything that's coming their way and has come their way because they have done such a fantastic job. They have, you landed out heading in one direction. They were handed out going north, and they've ended up going south. But literally,
they galloped off in several directions at once.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, have I a third topic today, Pat?
Just one. Jude, let us finish on this one. Let's get broken here. In my wee hometown here of Letterkenny, last night, I think there was 5-7 ambulances parked outside the hospital because they couldn't treat the number of patients inside. I think Craigavon Hospital yesterday issued a call for people, anybody who's qualified, to make themselves available. The staff shortages. Apparently, getting back into Letterkenny, there's something like 150 staff off with COVID. Now, there's no way I was going to say a hospital can run on that. Jude, I think I wrote it down somewhere. There's now 2,344 deaths in the Republic, and there were 688 positive cases yesterday. And now, in total, I think there's 147,000 people in the Republic who have had COVID. So Jude, this is deadly serious. Now, Jude, and I'm repeating myself again. On this, where I live right now, the only person who's been on our street, I'd say, was the postman. This has been going on since February, March.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, you have my sympathies, Pat, but I'm in exactly the same position myself, and I don't give a damn. I don't give a damn if it goes on for another year.
Yeah.
Anyway, I see today that I'm lying in line for we haven't personally been told, but we'd be in line for injection probably before the end of this month for the first jab anyway. But what, Pat? Tell me this. It's clear that in the south and in the north and in Britain, whatever but Scotland, that the whole thing, it's almost out of control, right?
It is out of control.
Well, they're fearful. They're really fearful.
You can drop the word almost.
Right. Yeah. Why is that? Is that because it's such a fierce bloody bug? Or is it anything to do with the way it was managed and the instructions the government gave people, or the degree to which they enforced them?
Jude, I think I have to go for the option. I think it's option B. You give me the way a bit of both, because there's no doubt. Jude, see what's going on in Britain at the start and in Northern Ireland. It was a joke. Like, Jude, right? So I remember March when I've repeated myself again here. But I remember one day, and I did it deliberately. I was sitting outside a supermarket in Derry, and while the south of Ireland where it was in lockdown, this was about a month in, and I remember sitting outside while Rosie was inside, and I literally counted 10 people. I said, right, I'll count the next 10 people and see how many of them wearing masks. Jude, 8 of them were not. And Jude, I remember writing it down. 8 out of 10 were not wearing masks. And it was so, everybody thought it's not going to happen to us. And so, and Jude, even yet, when you go to some of the supermarkets, there's almost a sort of this sort of casual thing. But right, then there was all sorts of things going on. Like Jude, when the Republic was in lockdown, there were people flying into Belfast and coming down and into the Republic and vice versa. But Jude, I'm not sure. I think the whole thing, like, what do you call him? Dominic Cummings, I think, single-handedly did more damage to the whole idea of lockdown. And if the Prime Minister's most powerful advisor can give 2 fingers to all the rules and regulations, I think a lot of other people just said, to hell with this, so can we. And I think, by the way, I think it just, the symbolism of somebody who was above the law doing whatever they wanted, told those who didn't want to obey the law anyway. And the final thing, Jude, there has been, a massive social media campaign about this is only a small cold or a light virus and it's not a killer and all the rest of it. Mm-hmm. This is all conspiracy theorists, and it's George Soros and Bill Gates and all the rest of it, and it's all about vaccines and all this sort of stuff. So put all that in the pot and you start away.
Mind you, that last bit about it only been a mild cold and so on, that's exactly the way the British government started. I remember them telling us that you don't get into a sweat about it. You know, the great majority of people, it's just been like getting a mild or a severe cold, maybe. And that's the size of it. But clearly it's not. I myself think, well, first of all, there's the inability of many politicians to do a half sensible thing. Certainly seems to be very poor. Let's take, for example, the vaccine. I mean, what the hell? Micheál Martin talking about it being May or June or July or August before the what the hell?
That's insane.
Yeah. So there's that. But let's talk about the way they managed the restrictions. They all said, and both in Ireland and in Britain, they said, well, the people have really been so good and obeyed advice, and it's wonderful. And I mean, a break at Christmas. Be careful, but a loosening of things at Christmas, and then we'll come back refreshed in January. And for God's sake, anybody could see that, If you relax all the regulations, give people, 3 or 4 or 5 days where they can just all get together and have a party. And then you say, oh, well, there's going to be bad figures in January, but we'll not think about that now. By God, we know about it. We certainly, if I'm right, that coming together at Christmas, we're paying a heavy price for it now.
I don't remember his name, and I don't remember exactly, but there was a guy on, one of the experts on before Christmas, and what you're after saying, he basically said, look, I am totally opposed to this sort of eating up at Christmas. He says, I understand the political reasons and all the rest of it. But he said, and I remember it very clearly, it was on drive time on RTE at about 5 o'clock. And I remember it was a dark day, and I remember listening to him. He says, we will pay a hell of a price for this in January. And he's 100% right. Jude, 6,888 positive cases in the Republic of Ireland yesterday. Jude, that is way, they thought 700 and 800 cases was considered bad. 6,888.
It's pretty scary, actually. It really is scary. And as you say, this is a very bad time for anybody to get sick. Leave aside, COVID. It's a very bad time to get sick because of the pressure. But it seemed to me so obvious. Like Leo Varadkar is a doctor.
Yeah.
I mean, you wouldn't even need to be a doctor to say, look, if coming together and mixing with other people and not observing, rules of distance and all sorts of stuff, having a good old Christmas, in the name of some sentimental notion of having a good Christmas. How could people be so childish and dumb?
Well, Jude, right, you're following your argument, right? I've got 3 children, and right, they're all married. What? They all came here, what's their family, and they come into his house, and all in with maybe 14, 15 people in here. Now, one of my son's a school teacher, the guy works for it doesn't matter, but they will be meeting people and I don't know who they'll be meeting. and maybe my wife has gone shopping to buy the stuff, so she had been in there. Who's to know who's bringing what in? So just exponentially, there's a fair chance it's going to spread. So you can imagine there was what 3 or 4 people in each of the houses over Christmas. All the rules were relaxed. And Jude, that's why we have 6,888 cases now.
Here's the last point I make, Pat, because we're running over time. My view would be this, and you tell me if you agree. If I had been the government, which unfortunately I'm not yet, but if I was the government, I'm telling you now, I wouldn't be advising people, recommending to people. I would be telling people, I would pass a law and I'd say, listen, mate, this is the law. And if you break the law, we will penalize you. We'll fine you. Necessary, we'll put you in prison. And and the cops should have been there to enforce it. So gathering in groups of more than whatever it was, 5 or whatever. If we can't find you, we'll penalize you. And they should have taken a few examples of it and made an example of those people. And the message would have got across pretty swiftly. This is a matter of life and death. And they're saying, we'll have to infringing on personal freedoms and so on, and people are responsible and so on. Bollocks, frankly, bollocks.
But before you go, just one question, the last question. If the vaccine is offered to you, will you take it?
Oh, I will take it, as Christy Moore said, in both arms at the same time, and all 3 of the types of vaccine at the same time.
No, I agree with you totally. Absolutely.
Okay, Pat. Okay.
All the best, Jude.
See you again. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Jude. Good luck. Okay.